Apparently I lied because I'm showing you histology instead of jumping into the skin appendages. So let's think about what I just told you in the last video. I showed you the layers of the epidermis and the layers of the dermis, and I showed you the blood supply, the plexuses. So this is a section of thick skin that is curled in on itself a little bit, but the most superficial part is the stratum corneum of the epidermis, and the deepest part is the adipose tissue of the hypodermis. But what else can we find? When I increase the magnification, some things I notice, these are distinctive looking structures. We will talk about what those are. We'll get to that. Here is a blood vessel, a pair of blood vessels. So this is probably, let me think. This looks like a vein, and I say that because it has collapsed. Veins don't have strong musculature. They don't have strong. They don't have a reason to be strong. They don't have high pressure. So I think those might just be two views of the same vein. It might be going in and out the plane of the slide. And we see more blood vessels here. And then if we look at the stratum, what am I saying? If we look, well, here's the epidermis. We can see the stratum basale has the stem cells and Merkel cells and other things that are hard to find and we might not see them. But also here is the stratum spinosum with the keratinocytes, and then stratum granulosum, and then a kind of dark stratum lucidum, and then stratum corneum. Okay, but what I want to draw your attention to is the dermal papillae, where this reaches up here, and this is the papillary layer of the dermis. And we can kind of see a difference between this and this. This is going to be the areolar tissue, and this is loose connective tissue proper. So this is the reticular dermis. This up here is the papillary dermis. Now let's look at that areolar tissue. This is a jumble. What I see is no pattern. I see cells that are not directly connected to each other, so this is not epithelial tissue. But, and I see fibers. I see what looks like probably collagen fibers, but not taking up much space. So there's a lot of space. You can see through this. And that's one way I know this is a loose connective tissue. What else can we see? Well, that is a moderate-sized vein. These are small blood vessels. This is a small cross-section from a small blood vessel. This is a small blood vessel. This looks like maybe a blood vessel that is kind of in the almost in the plane of the slide. It's going into the slide here and coming out of there, something like that. Here's a blood vessel, and here is a blood vessel. So this would be a vein. I mean, the capillary version of a vein and the capillary version of an artery. Tiny blood vessels there. What else can I show you? Interesting. I'm not sure what that is. This... Sorry, this is histologyguide.com. Histologyguide.com. Yeah. This is maybe my favorite site on the whole internet. The internet is not an exciting place anymore. So Histology Guide can win. Great. So that was what I wanted to show you about histology of the integumentary system up to this point, because we haven't yet looked at skin appendages, but let's do that now. So, skin appendages. The main things we're going to look at, and this drawing shows them nicely. Hair follicles, those are going to be large, and they're going to dominate the view. They will have associated with them sebaceous glands that we might see, and those have a distinct appearance. They will also have erector pili muscle, that smooth muscle that helps the hair stand up when we want the hair to stand up, so that pulls on the hair follicle. We will also see sweat glands, and sweat glands are these long tubes, highly coiled tubes, that have part of them reaches all the way to the surface. Well, if you take a two-dimensional cut through tissue, you're going to see some slice through this. So we'll start with the two different kinds of glands. Sebaceous glands are going to lubricate the hair shaft in the hair follicle. And what we'll see is that the hair itself won't be pigmented. The hair follicle is an extension of the epidermis. And so we see this epithelial tissue around the hair shaft. And then next to it, these strange looking cells, these large cells that look kind of empty, almost like adipose cells. And then as you follow this gland and it gets closer to the hair shaft, they're not cells anymore. They have erupted, and all of the oil they made is just in a blob. The cells are dead. So you won't always find these if they're not in the plane of the slide, but we will find some of these. And then over here we have sweat glands, and these are easier to find. And what you're seeing is epithelial tissue, because glands like this are made of epithelial tissue. Looks like maybe simple cuboidal tissue. Maybe stratified cuboidal, but I think it's simple. I think this is simple cuboidal. And in some places, the random twists are in the plane we can see, and other places they aren't. So we just see a lot of these circles. But they stand out from the dense irregular connective tissue around them. So these are going to be in the dermis. Hair follicles are going to be in the dermis and hypodermis. And so they stand out in histology. So let's see if we can find them. This is our original thick skin. We're not going to find a hair follicle. Will we find a sweat gland? I mean, will we? Yes, this is a sweat gland. So it has kind of random, you're just seeing random parts of a highly coiled structure with made of epithelial tissue when everything else around it is just collagen. There's so much to look at in skin. Let's look at thin skin. Yeah, okay, let's look at thin skin. Come on. Come on. Okay. Thin skin. So, not much to see in the epidermis. A thin stratum granulosum, no stratum lucidum, very thin stratum granulosum, and then a very thin keratinized layer. Okay, great. Up against the skin, we see areolar connective tissue that quickly transitions into, dense irregular connective tissue. And thin skin is going to have more of things like eccrine sweat glands. So that's this. I don't know if these are the same gland or just a cluster of glands, but this is a sweat gland. So can you see how that stands out from the tissue around it? And then, what's this? Are you... Oh, wow. I think that might be a sweat gland. I'm not sure what that is. That's, yeah. Hair follicle. Oh, okay, here it is. Here's a hair follicle. Let's see what we can see around this hair follicle. First of all, see how huge it is relative to the epidermis. It's not directly associated with these eccrine sweat glands. It has its own stuff. But what stuff does it have? Let's see. What does it have? This. This is smooth muscle. This is the erector pili muscle. And it will connect the kind of the deepest part of the hair follicle to the surrounding tissue. Other things we can see here. No. Oh, cool. This is a gland that we're seeing parts of it. Okay, so I can't show you everything I wanted to show you, but what I can show you is that a hair follicle is an extension of the epidermis. So epidermis, here we go. Deep, 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 deep. And then there's a whole structure for making hair. And then here we go. Epidermis. This is a boring... That's boring thin skin. Okay, so that was boring thin skin. This is skin from a scalp with lots of hair follicles, and they are these circular structures you're seeing. What we can see if we look at one is that it is made of epithelial tissue surrounded by smooth muscle. But we're just seeing cross sections of all these hairs. Cross sections. Other things we're seeing here, more than we need. This is a sebaceous gland. This is a sebaceous gland. These are sebaceous glands surrounding these hair follicles. Sebaceous glands. And so kind of what you're looking for with sebaceous glands is they are lightly pigmented. They don't, they look almost empty. And then eccrine sweat glands next to them are these highly coiled structures made of epithelial tissue, like any gland. So let's see, are any of these... I was kind of hoping one would be oriented in a good way. This one, this is what I'm used to seeing, because most histology slides of skin try to make it easier to see hair follicles. So here we have a slide in a plane with the hair follicles, almost. So the hair, like this one is kind of out of the plane. These are out of the plane. This one's out of the plane. Hair follicles are thick, so the part of a hair follicle will be in multiple planes. So let's see. Here we go. Here's one, here's one. I just want to look for a good example. Yeah, this one, sebaceous gland. Just see part of a sebaceous gland here, but it's all in the same plane. So we see part of a sebaceous gland and then the part where it's no longer cells and it's just sebum. Probably this is all part of the same gland and it's connected, but we're not seeing the tube that connects them. Here we see three that are probably connected to the hair shaft of this follicle, but the shaft is not in the plane, so we don't see it. Again, here we see sebaceous glands associated with this shaft that is not in the plane. So we only have that one so far that shows us the connection. Wow, that one shows the connection. Okay, so you can look around and recognize this. There are two kinds of sweat glands, and I've been talking about eccrine glands. These are the typical sweat glands. Apocrine glands are the very different. So we could think about, what do they excrete? Eccrine glands release true sweat, so it is salt water with some nitrogenous waste in it. So sweat smells a little bit, it doesn't smell super pleasant, partly because it's a way of getting rid of the same nitrogenous waste the kidneys get rid of through urine. So do with that information what you will. And the function of true sweat is to cool us off. Apocrine sweat is different. It is a mixture of proteins and fats that bacteria on the skin ferment and turn into our body odor. And so this is in, you only find these glands in skin around the genitals and the axillas, armpits. And the slides go into a little bit about hair and the various things, but there's no substitute for histology. So this is some nicely labeled pictures. They're just not that magnified. Here they are a little better magnified. So sebaceous gland. Hair, and then erector pili muscle. Little erector pili muscle. Nice erector pili. Other things are the sensory organs, the Meissner's corpuscles. Well, I got ahead of myself. One of the things hair has on it that you will never see under histology is touch receptors. So each hair follicle will probably have nerve endings on it, so that if the hair gets bumped, we will know it, and that gives us a very fine sense of what's near our skin. So thin skin with hair has those light touch receptors attached to hair follicles. Thick skin doesn't have any way to sense that. So Meissner's corpuscles would give us that same sense, light touch, and these are going to be specialized nerve endings that sense touch just deep to the epidermis. And then Pacinian corpuscles are going to be more common, and they're going to be a lot deeper, and they will sense deep touch. And they have this distinct look, and I think I have seen these a few times, but I've never seen a Meissner's corpuscle. Like, I've never stumbled across one. That was lecture 3. So I think I would have had to make a video no matter what, because we only had the 2 hours to go over connective tissues and skin. So this seems long because it is long. Those are big topics. So that is Unit 1. That's it. Unit 1. You've seen it here.